churches are perfectly positioned for online ministry. We have a culture where every single week we're expected with new content. People are on the edge of their seats waiting for the new piece of content, and assuming that the content is exceptional, which in most of our churches in this area it is, we want to share it and we want to invite people to consume this piece of content and to experience this journey together. And so churches are actually primed in a way that is so unfair when you compare it to like businesses or other nonprofits. Like they don't have an ecosystem built in place where they're expected to create new content.
Yeah.
And so this is our huge advantage. Pastors out there who are used to writing sermons, like you're in the perfect position to blow your mission out of the water. It's exciting.
Yeah, but so does this mean that instead of creating one sermon, now all of a sudden you have to create 6? You know, you have to do a separate piece of content for each thing throughout the week. You know, does it mean that all of a sudden everybody's job just got 1,000,000 times harder?
You know, I used to think that that's what it was. And when I would create videos for my YouTube channel, what I would do is every time I'd sit down at the beginning of the week and I think of, okay, what are the ideas that I want to share? What are the questions that I want to answer? And then with every single individual piece of content, I basically started from a blank slate. And what I found was when I did that, I would actually end up burnt out. I'd feel discouraged because it was a lot of work. I felt overwhelmed and I felt like, man, there's no way I could possibly do this. How in the world do these people create 3, 4, 5 pieces of content a week? And we're not even talking about multiple platforms. We're just talking about one platform. So it really very quickly felt like this was something I was completely out of my depth for. And so what I learned along the way is that there's a different way to look at this.
Okay.
Where I could even, like if I'm a pastor, just focus on my one sermon or my one keystone piece of content and still be able to reach people on many platforms in a way that's native and unique to that individual platform, and maybe even learn something along the way. And so what we're talking about here is what I've deemed, and I wrote this down because I wanted to say this correctly because I got it wrong on our first take, was this idea of the reverse content pyramid strategy. It's this idea of taking a single piece of pillar content, like a sermon, like a question and answer, like an interview or a podcast or something like that, and basically creating dozens of pieces of content distributed across multiple different platforms, all for the hope of reaching more people and creating greater relational depth.
So what does that look like?
What it looks like is you go about a lot of what you have been doing already. If you're going to record a sermon, pre-recorded or live stream, great. You're going to still do that. Maybe it looks like considering, well, maybe you invite people to submit questions and you do a question and answer show where you just go live for 20 minutes, you and your co-pastor or maybe a couple of elders or young adult leaders of your church, and you just do an open forum Q&A session for 20 or 30 minutes a week. Maybe it looks like, hey, every week I'm going to sit down with one of the members of my church to interview them, to hear their story, to hear their life story, and all these pieces of content, maybe the sermon aside, the Q&A and the interview really take about 20, 30 minutes of work. You just start the cameras, you have a conversation, and what is shot is shot. And in the sermon, you're already doing that already. So we're not trying to add too much extra work to this. But then the question is well, what do you do with it now?
Yeah.
Because the real obvious answer is, well, post the sermon. Great. That's a great start to go. But what we're seeing is that, you know, our communities, they want to listen to a 20, 30-minute sermon. But if they're new to our community, they may not be interested in that quite so much. So here's what we're suggesting is you shoot your pillar piece of content. That's kind of step 1.
Okay.
Step 2 is create micro content. And then step 3 would be to distribute it among the different platforms.